Hello.
Oh, hey, how's it going?
I'm doing okay.
Well. That's listen, I'm glad you reached out for help. This is a heck of a thing to be dealing with, and I really sympathize. So thank you for calling. I appreciate that. So, do you want to tell me what's going on?
Uh, well, um, I've been having these issues with my daughter. I'm a stay-at-home mom. I'm 38, and our family, my husband, my daughter, and I, we just moved from another state so we can buy a house. And um, we moved here and just kind of didn't really have any other community, and um, so it's been really difficult trying to find some other friends to connect with that are kind of like-minded and also have kids the same age.
I'm so sorry to interrupt. I'm having a little trouble hearing you. I'm not sure if you're on a headset or a
Oh,
phone or something like that, but if you could just check
okay.
under Skype settings, there is a way of making sure it's not the end of the world if we have to continue, but I just like to be able to
Okay.
hear people as clearly as possible.
So Skype settings. Okay, let me see
Should be
here.
able to choose a microphone or that.
Can you hear me better?
It hasn't changed, and it's not the end of the world. If you have some nice headset, that's fine. If you don't, we can continue. No big deal.
Okay. Well, incidentally enough, my husband's a sound engineer, and
Isn't
I'm
that
like
funny?
on his like super groovy like sound setup where he's got like barefoot speakers, and
Wow.
so I'm
Okay.
just
Now,
like, wait, where do I speak into?
right. Okay.
But
We'll just keep going. We'll keep going. So,
okay.
so,
Um,
and your daughter is 3.5. Is that right?
she's 3.5,
Right.
and uh, so yeah, we've moved, and so it's been kind of difficult meeting friends. But then just recently, we've met some really great people that have great kids, and my daughter connects with them. They kind of live a little bit far away from us still. Like it's probably like, I mean, not too far. It's like 30 minutes to an hour, with some of these people we've connected with. And um, just yesterday, I was um, with my daughter, and we're having a great day, and then it'll be around midday where I kind of start feeling this like anxiety where I have to get stuff done around the house, and um, I'm my husband is going to take over usually like at around like 3 or so in the afternoon, and I'm trying to make lunch and just kind of refuel and not get hangry. And my daughter is just, she wants to help, and I let her help. And when she loses interest with helping me, she'll just go around starting screaming, and she'll hit me in the kitchen, and I'll very calmly explain to her like what's going on, but I understand she's a toddler, so it's kind of a lot to expect her to completely understand and be logical. But I um, try my best to really engage with her and sit with her when she is being like this. Um, and but she'll stop for a little bit and then continue to like just climb on the furniture and being really unsafe and just screaming. And the screaming has kind of been something that she's been started doing more often, like over the past couple months, and it's been really bothering my husband and I. And I would really like to properly understand um, what that's from and what I can do. And I know it kind of always starts with the parenting. So anyway, I
Wait, sorry. Do you mean your parenting or how you were parented? Because I would go a little bit
well,
with the
both,
second, but
both.
right. Okay.
And so I just get to a point where, okay, I've finished making the lunch and finally, and I like do something just like awful, like where she's screaming and I have to like lock her outside because I can't handle it and I can't finish what I'm doing. And I just never thought I would ever do anything like that because my mom used to do that to me. And my mom used to put me in my room, like
So you mean lock her outside, like in the backyard?
in the backyard.
And
And
do you sort of pick her up and put her outside? I mean, she doesn't want to go at that point, right?
yeah, sometimes I'll pick her up and sometimes she'll just like, I'll open the door and she'll just run outside. But then she wants me to come out with her and I uh, explain to her that I have to finish making lunch and I'm at this point where I'm like, I can't handle you right now while I'm trying to fix lunch and I'm getting to the point where I'm getting really hungry too. And um and she's outside and at this point my husband comes in to kind of take over, and he'll come take over and lunch is ready and then she'll sit down, but then um she'll be like taking the food and kind of playing with it and just really like over the past couple months been really trying to activate like the anger I guess like within me because she kind of knows some of my little triggers and even my husband too since he's a sound engineer he hates the yelling because it really hurts his ears he's like really sensitive so um we've been experiencing just like, God, we're like, I've never been so angry at someone in my whole entire life, and it's my daughter. And
Well,
I,
and it's traumatic, right? I mean, the screaming is like that's what you hear in like I don't know if two buses collide and people have their legs melting, like this level of scream. It's traumatic, right, for you?
yes, it's traumatic, and it's,
No, no, you laugh a little, but it is
yeah,
being screamed at is very stressful. Being screamed at raises cortisol levels. It's bad for your health. I mean, it's bad for your sleep. And this isn't what you went through 9 years. I'm sorry, 9 years. This isn't what you went through 9 months of labor for, right? Is to have this kind of issue. So I really feel for you. This is a very tough situation to be in, and you're certainly not alone in this kind of stuff. I'm sure we can solve it, but I mean, I know you're not alone in that.
yeah, I know I'm not alone either, and I don't know what it is like too, like that the night before I got some a little time off to myself and got to hang out with some really great people and so I should be feeling like re-energized and refreshed and ready to like kind of take on whatever the day has for me and for us and I'm just like I got to this point where my husband took over and then he had to go back to work for a little bit and then my somebody had to came over and dropped something off and we chatted a little bit and so I was like kind of heated and I had to tell my friend that dropped something off like I'm sorry I just got like kind of in a little struggle with my daughter so I'm like a little off guard and so from having to be from being kind of really angry to then somebody coming over and like wanting to chat I'm like it's like really hard for me to switch I mean I'm sure for anyone
Well,
except
and
for like
also it would be
psychopaths.
weird. It would be weird for your daughter to see you switch.
Yes,
Like yelling at her or whatever's going on, and then like, hi, to whoever's
yeah,
coming over, it'd be like, whoa, which mom is spin the wheel landing on today, right?
yes, and that's also something I would experience growing up too is my mom would be like yelling at us and then she'd like the phone would ring and it'd be like oh hey how's it going I was just like whoa, that's really strange, and I'm like, wow, she acts really nice to other people, but not so much to me.
Oh
And
yeah, no, the strangers get the nice mom is something I'm a wee bit familiar with as well, and it's
yeah,
I mean, unfortunately, of course, it shows to your kids that you can control your temper. You just don't in that particular circumstance, which we'll figure out. But that's what the
yeah,
kids experience, right?
yeah. And so after the friend dropped things off and she left, um, my daughter just then she was like actually did the same thing too, which is kind of like a little scary too. Is she like when the friend was over, she was being like really nice and just like agreeable and like was listening and then when she left, she just started climbing over all this like the furniture and started yelling again. And I just got so angry. Like there was like this little basket on the ground, and I just kicked it, and I kicked it so hard I broke it. And like there was like some of her toys were in it, and then she'll say to me too like, why did you break that? Like, why did, I'm like, because I'm so upset. I'm so upset, and I know that it's wrong to break things, but I just really felt like breaking something. And,
You know what the terrifying thing, my friend? You're dangerously close to empathizing with your mother. Because when you were growing up, right, your mom was like this, "Arr," right, and now you're
mhm,
like, oh yeah, no, I can see that now. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like that's terrifying because you went through such
it is.
suffering at the hands of your mother, at the voice of your mother, and now as you sort of drift closer to that orbit, it's like, oh, that's what it's like from the other side. Oh,
Yes.
that's you know what I mean? Like that's why she did what
hmm
she did, right?
Yeah, and that's funny that you said that because I was talking to my brother and I was saying like how I'm finding like empathy for mom, and he was saying like, God, me too. Like, last time I talked to her, I was just like kind of like, let's like he told himself just to let it go, and um, I was just like, yeah, like.
Things that don't help 101. Let it go, rise above it, don't react. See, yeah, things that don't help,
Yeah,
right?
and those are the things too, like when I'm trying to rise above, like when my daughter's screaming at me by like not reacting or like acting like it's not affecting me, like that's when the pot starts boiling within me. And it's like kind of like the start of it. And uh, and it's just so strange because I like can feel like I've been able to maintain it, like manage it, like see my anger coming up, and then like I said in my letter, I'm able to take a deep breath or like walk around or just like sometimes I'll just pray too and just like and it's like just like asking myself basically to like get through this,
I'm not
and
sure where, I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh, but I'm not sure where it puts you in Christian theology, or in particular your daughter, if you have to pray to Jesus and to God to save you from your daughter. Doesn't that put her in
right,
kind of the negative slash demonic side of things, if I understand that correctly?
right. Yeah,
Lord, please save me from the temptations of my daughter, whose head is currently rotating. And okay, all right, wow,
yeah, it's I know, like get behind me.
yeah, yeah, that's right. Get behind me, toddler. Right, right.
But yeah, yeah, like yesterday it just kind of boiled over so hard, and I broke that basket, and my daughter, like, she picked it up part of the basket, and she ran to my husband. He was in another room. He's in the room where he's doing sound engineering, so he's got the headphones on. He can't hear anything. But she knocks on the door and like she's like, "Mom broke the basket," and brought him a piece of the basket, and I just like started sobbing, like crying, and I was just like, "This is too hard, and I don't want to be a mom, and like this is like it's
Wait, did your daughter
over."
hear that?
Yeah, she did.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Yeah, things that you really don't want sitting in your kids' heads, right? Because what
No,
you mean is, I don't want to be a mom to you, right? I mean, because you want her to be a mom, you just don't want to be a mom to her. And saying something like that is a direct bond threat, like our bond is cracking, kind of thing.
mhm.
Right. I'm sorry
Yeah,
about that.
yeah, and yeah, and she was trying to give me a hug and like show empathy to me, and I wasn't at first ready to receive it, but like then she just like kept trying to hug me, and then I just like sat down and just hugged her, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm in a really bad place, and I don't. There are things that she can't possibly understand. I don't. She can't understand it as an adult, you know, and um,
And what would you say to her if she could understand it? Give me the speech like I'm her and you just said I don't want to be your mom or that kind of stuff.
oh God, if she, oh
Or
God,
like if you could write a letter that she could open when she was a teenager or something.
mhm. um, basically saying that I'm really sorry and that I'm not able to manage my anger and that it's not her fault that I'm not able to manage that anger and I'm really sorry. I don't know, I just get lost. I kind of lose the words to.
Well, hang on, hang on. Now that's I mean it's very thoughtful and nice what you're saying, but I've got to call not true on at least part of it, right? No, with all friendliness
Right.
and affection, like, but when you say I'm unable to, I can't control my temper,
Mhm.
that's not true. I mean, you could.
Mhm.
Obviously, if there was a policeman at the door or something
Right.
like that, right? If there was
Right.
in public places, at a mall, wherever, right, at your friends' places, the half hour to an hour away friends, you can control your temper. And we have to figure out why it's impossible to do so in this situation. But because if you say to her, I can't control my temper, but honey, you at three and I at 38 can't control my temper, but you at 3.5 should really be able to control your temper.
Mhm.
I mean, that's not going to be believable, right?
Right.
Her level of aggression is actually a tribute to you. She wants to be like mommy, right?
Mhm.
She's
Oh
praising
yeah.
you. I know it sounds weird, but she is.
Yeah.
Right now, I assume she's very affectionate with her father.
She's very affectionate, but also my husband has said that like over the past couple months he's also like had to use force like in a way where if
I'm sorry, what now? Did you give me
she's
the have
he's
to
had to
there?
use he's
Have to
had to
use
use
force?
force.
Have to? Have to? Really? You're going to tell the
Right.
guy, you're going to tell the peaceful parenting guy, well, we had to use force. She's 3.5. She's terrifying. She's like Godzilla. It's just self
Yeah.
defense.
Well, he was saying that well, we were talking about today, he's like, oh, how do you reason with the, I mean, she's crazy. How do you reason with the crazy person? Like, it's, and
I'm sorry. Which female was he talking
I
about here?
know,
The
right?
big version or the little version here, right? Because you can't
Yeah,
be reasoned with when you're in that kind of temper either, right?
yeah.
Now, you understand if she's affectionate towards her father, she's going to imitate you. Do you know why?
Um, she's affectionate to her dad. She's imitating me because, um, is it to solicit, um, like his attention or
No, it's
to,
much. You got to think more biological. So she imitates you because if she likes her father chose you. So if she wants a man like her dad, she's going to have to be like you.
mm-hmm,
You are modeling. See, she doesn't look at you and think, that's my mom, and she's had her own history, her own childhood, and there's lots of other types of women out there. She looks at you and she says, this is femininity. This is what women do. And when
mm-hmm,
women do this, they get a man who provides, who protects, who I love. And so when women lose their tempers and act out and get aggressive and push me outside and lock the door, when women are very aggressive, that's who the men choose because that's who dad chose.
mm-hmm,
And so it's like her genes are saying, be like
yeah,
mom because she's the only person you know who is who has succeeded in passing along her genes to the next generation, right? You and
Mhm.
your husband, right? So you just think the genetics, right? The genetics are like, oh, this is the most attractive and popular woman in the vicinity, so I should be like her in order to get a man like that, or just get a man
Mhm.
at all, if that makes sense. Because he chose
Right.
you, and therefore, if he chose you, you must be extraordinarily valuable. Therefore, I should do what mom does.
Mhm.
I mean, I assume your father, sorry, I assume that her father knew, like your husband knew before you got married and had kids, that you had a temper, right? And you'd had a harsh upbringing.
He knew I had a harsh upbringing. Um, my temper didn't really it didn't really come to this level until after I had our daughter. I mean, I think well, I've had like a temper it's been, I guess, secretive. Like if I've been working on a project and something like failed, I would like scream or something. Kind of sounds like my daughter now, but I would, but it was not nearly as, um, I guess, volatile until my daughter was 2. And even I had a great pregnancy. Like I was like, I had a wonderful pregnancy, wonderful birth. And then it was after I had my daughter that I was starting to um, really notice kind of a lot of residual anger I have with my mom, um, because she didn't really show up like to really help out that much. And my mother-in-law, she is like beyond, above and beyond, like will help. Like she's her and my father-in-law, like they will. I mean, they'll rearrange their whole day to help with the granddaughter, and so I see that, and it was just interesting to feel myself be uncomfortable with that because I wasn't raised that way. Like my grandma didn't come and see me, and now his parents, my
Wait, your
husband's parents.
grandmother or your mother?
Oh, I was saying like me as a child, I
Oh,
didn't
I
see
see, I see.
that.
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't see that, so I didn't see my grandparents come and visit me. No, they just didn't. It was very seldomly. And my husband's parents, they like go out of their way to come visit and spend time with the granddaughter, with my daughter, and I was a little uncomfortable with it, like almost a little claustrophobic. But then I had to really just accept the help because I really needed it. And uh, my my mom would come around every once in a while, and when she would come, she would not be that helpful. She wants to talk about politics, or she wants to talk about stuff like it's like she wouldn't like really engage with what my needs were, what the baby's needs were, and um, yeah, it was very like like few and far between the visits, the very beginning, and there would be a lot of excuses from her saying like, "Oh, I'm sorry I couldn't come visit because, I work and it's really far away too." She lived about like 30 minutes away,
Huh.
and I'm like, "That's not that far away," and
Well,
um,
good thing there weren't too many speed bumps. I mean, then she'd never visit.
I know, right? And yeah, and other things too. My brother, he got married when my daughter was 2 months old, and my mom was the one that was um, kind of organizing the wedding, like the decorating and everything. And she basically was being really demanding on me when I was just had a baby, and it was something to do with she had an idea for these candles to be everywhere, and they had to be like a certain color and everything, and it had to be this so. And she would be like just overly picky on like the shade of white they had to be, um,
It's always
and
horrible when shitty parents show you their perfectionist side.
yeah,
Because it's like, could you not have taken any of that perfectionist stuff and studied how to be a parent without screaming and hitting any possible? No, perfectionism is for flowers that don't matter, not children that I'm raising.
right. And my brother is getting divorced right now too, which is
Oh God.
horrible. Yeah,
Wow.
but
He's got kids too, right? You said that you were both commiserating about parenting.
well, we were just talking about our mom, but thankfully they didn't. Him and his ex-wife didn't have any children.
Mm,
Um,
okay.
but I mean, it's like,
Okay, so let's talk a little bit. If sorry to interrupt, let's talk a little bit
yeah.
about. And sorry, that's the royal we. Let us talk about your childhood. So if you tell me, like, what was it like sibling? Well, I guess you got a brother, and younger or older, and what was it like for you growing up?
I actually have two brothers and two sisters. I have an older half brother. He's a year and a half older than I am, and we have the same dad. And then I'm the oldest out of the four siblings. So it goes me, then I have a sister that's a year younger than me, and then 2 years after that, my mom had twins, and that's my brother and my other younger sister. And so my mom had four kids within 5 years, and it was I just remember it being kind of chaotic. And um, yeah, we were always kind of walking on eggshells. My parents stayed together, and we always knew that they would probably get divorced because my mom was pretty volatile and at times.
Oh,
And
that doesn't speak well to your marriage, but
right,
we'll get back to that. My mom was so
right,
volatile they ended up getting divorced. Ha ha. All right. Anyway,
right.
but go on.
Yeah, they waited till all of us were out of the house, but it's funny. I like wonder. I'm like, was that the best thing? Kind of, I guess. It would have been even more chaotic if we were bouncing between two homes. But
It also could have been
um,
they just couldn't afford it.
yeah, it possibly. Yeah, I didn't
I mean,
even
two
think of that.
households pretty expensive, right?
Yeah, and my dad, he did not want to get divorced too. He wanted to just try to stick it out, and my mom would, but then they came to an agreement, I guess, that they would just. My mom says, and this is just like, oh great, she sacrificed a lot of her happiness to like for us, and I'm
Yeah,
like,
you didn't. What
great,
do you mean? You didn't choose to be born.
I know, and um, but it was pretty like if we went on a vacation as a family, it was only a matter of time till my mom had a complete like meltdown of some kind, or my dad would like forget her birthday or forget their anniversary, and it was just like big meltdown. And or there would be, I remember the first time my mom ever hit me, it was I left a glass of water in our bedroom, and she came in storming saying like, who left this glass of water in your room? And I blamed my sister.
What was
And
the problem? What did it leave like a ring on some wood or something? Or
I don't know because it was like laminate furniture, and
wow.
like I don't know, she just zeroed in on this glass of water being on a bookshelf, and I lied because I was terrified. And my sister and I, we were both like kind of, we're always kind of like fighting a little bit, and pointing the finger at each other, and I was like, oh, she did it. And then she got mad at her, but she didn't hit her. But then she found out that I lied about it, and she just came at me, like, and just started smacking me and like saying you lied, and like just just started smacking me. And
Wow.
uh,
Of course, your mom has no problem lying when saying 30 minutes, it's too far away. That's a total lie, right? So she's no
right,
problem with lying. That's not like a principle she has.
yeah, yeah. And my mom is also, to put add to it, is she's like born again Christian, and she's always talking about the truth. And I tell
I'm sorry, is
people,
she really? I thought you weren't supposed to lie.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly. And she's always proselytizing about, like, oh, I tell people how it is. I tell people the truth, and if they don't like it, then like tough. And that was kind of our childhood. Is she had a plaque in our kitchen that said, "I'm the mommy, that's why." And there was never
Well,
any.
that's not very subtle. I guess that's pretty clear.
Oh yeah, very clear. Like my mom is pretty clear on who she is, but when she gets called out on it, um, she just she can't hear it, and she'll throw her own tantrum. And I believe she just has lived in complete denial of it for so long that she just doesn't even believe it like even happened, like our childhood, that
Well,
she was.
but I mean, sorry, what negative effects is she experiencing because of what she did?
Well, she doesn't have the best relationship with all of her kids. She's got two of them that won't even
No,
call
no. I
her.
mean, sorry, she's got. I mean, with regards to you, you invite her over. She doesn't even really want to come, right?
Um, well, now, okay, now fast forward. Um, I moved, we moved out of state, and my mom moved to the same state. And she lives about an hour away. And now she's like, um, oh yeah, you can come over anytime. And I mean, she'll come here if she can, but now it's still the excuses of why she can't come to us is because she's got too much work to do around the house. And she's
Does
an
she live
empty
alone?
nest. I'm sorry.
Does she live alone?
She lives alone.
So, how much bloody work does she have? I don't quite understand.
Yeah. I think she's always just trying to keep herself busy. Um, and maybe she's always trying to keep herself
Okay,
busy. She's
let's
always,
not. Sorry, I don't want to theorize about her state of mind. I just want to sort of
yeah,
focus on.
yeah, sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine. So she hit you. Did she hit you rarely or regularly, or how did that go?
It happened where it would like build up to, I mean, it would be probably like once every 6 months, there'd be like a blow up of some kind, and it would be um, one of us that would get the brunt of it. And me and my sister, that is the second born, we were the ones that got the physical brunt of it. And my brother and his twin sister, they were the ones that got like the emotional, verbal brunt of it, and they also watched us getting hit too. So that would happen like every 6 months, and there was a couple times where we even called the police, and um, it would get to the point where the cops were like, "Do you want to press charges on your mom?" And we just say no because we were just terrified of what we didn't know what that was going to do, you know. And also we like thought that my mom would change, I guess, but she never apologized for anything. And one time, even one of the police officers was I played volleyball for a while, and he was one of the coaches. Like he was also like one of the police officers that came and saw, like, was called to our house and knew that my mom was abusive. So that was always made like really awkward,
Right.
really.
Okay.
awkward scenario. But yeah, and it wasn't until, and I hear you talk about this too, when you get older, where you can fight back. And there was a point where she was really brutally smacking my sister around, and I just yelled at her and I said, "Stop it!" And then she started coming after me, and I just held my hands out and stopped her. And I was like, "Oh no, you stop it!" And like, and yelled at her, back at her, and she just stopped and she just like screamed and ran away. And that was the last time we ever got physical, where we were living in our house, because my sister and I, we moved out. My sister ran away a few times, and I
At what
moved out
age?
as soon as I could. I'm sorry.
At what age did your sister run away?
She ran away when she was like a freshman in high school, and she got really heavily into drugs. And
Oh my God. I
yeah, she
mean,
got
I mean, because you say that she was violent maybe every couple of months, 6 months, whatever, but I mean, it must have been intolerable for your sister, what, 15 or 16 years old, to run away, to just what, take her chances
yeah,
out in the world?
yeah. She actually, I think she got like the worst of it, because my my sister is very strong-willed. She's very intelligent too, and she's lots of energy, and she's very similar to my daughter.
Yeah, I
And
was going to mention.
yeah, and my mom just did not know. She wasn't able to give the proper attention and patience to her, and um, she was always like trying to like push the line, like when we were younger. Like she was the sibling, like if there was like peace and harmony, she would like like my sister would like hit my brother, or cause some kind of ruckus. And so that was really difficult for my mom to manage, and she just managed
Oh
it.
my God. Okay, so this is the
Yeah.
problem, right? The
Yeah.
problem is that you're assigning negative agency to your sister and you're making your mom a victim.
Hmm.
Oh, if there was peace, my sister would hit her brother, and my
Yeah.
mom couldn't handle it. And like, oh, your poor mother, right? Oh, your poor mother, right? Who's hitting her children, screaming at them, abusing them, driving one of her children out of the house. Now, I mean, that's a hugely serious thing. Like, I think my daughter's going to be 13 in a couple of months, right? So in like 2 years, 3 years, she just wanders out into the world and takes her chances in the streets. That's how people get raped, killed, sold into sexual trafficking, like shot up with drugs, which I guess happened as well, in
Yeah.
return for usual sexual favors. I mean, that destroys people, right?
Right.
So your mother put through her and your father through their abusive environment, put your sister in truly mortal danger.
Yeah. And
So I'm sorry, I can't put your mom in the victim category there.
yeah, I'm yeah, I guess I know when I do say it was difficult to manage, that is a form of empathizing. But
Well,
my
here's the
mom,
thing.
yeah.
So, because you mentioned earlier about the sort of chaos, right? She had like four children in 5 years, or something like that, right?
Hmm.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you can bully people in the army, but you can't bully people very well in a software company. It doesn't tend to work super well because you need people's
Right.
motivation and energy and enthusiasm. The more complex the situation, the more destructive violence is,
Hmm.
or aggression, right? So you say,
Hmm.
oh, she had all these kids, so it was really chaotic, and she reacted with this clamp down or bully or control mentalities. That's the worst thing you should do when things are complex. When
Hmm.
things are complex, you need to have as free and easy a gentle as touch as possible. Like in a free market, you can't scream at people, and obviously in totalitarian societies you can. So the more complex things are, the more difficult they are, the more light touch is needed, right? I
Hmm.
mean, that's so saying that somehow her temper was driven by the number of kids. First of all, stop having all the kids. I mean, even if it was the case that the kids led to the bad temper, she's still 100% responsible for it because she chose to have that many kids in half a decade, right?
Yeah. I mean that. she's told us that she had um, my sister and I first, and then my dad and her were having issues, but the issues weren't um, enough to make them stop like having sex, and so they the twins were unexpected,
No,
and
they weren't.
I
No, no, no. Come on. Come
yeah,
on. 18 different forms of birth control, not including
right,
abstinence.
right,
There's no way that any person with an IQ over 85 is going to be able to claim that there was an accident, right?
yeah, yeah, and my brother and my sister know that too.
Yeah, that's not great either. But
Yeah,
then
that's
your daughter
horrible.
knows that you don't want to be a mom. So, I mean,
Yeah,
right? So,
I mean they tell
these are
this
lots of
story
things that
like
kids
it's
shouldn't
so
hear, right?
funny.
Yeah. Okay, so if you can just give me a brief sketch of, 18 to 38 for you.
18 to 38. Okay, so I I moved out and actually started renting a room from a friend. And at this point, I was like really smoking a lot of weed and doing random drugs every now and then. And I got a job like waitressing, and I waitressed pretty much from like all through my 20s to my early 30s, because it was like, that it just, you get cash on hand and
How pretty
make
are you?
pretty good living. I'm sorry.
How pretty are you?
I would say I'm like a solid 7 or 8.
Right. I mean, that's one of the things that you get trapped in as a waiter, is like, or waitress, is that if you're pretty, you're going to make a lot of tips, right? So it can kind of trap you there.
Yeah. And I really liked it too because I was really into food. I love food and I love to cook, um, and also it was really developing some really great um, people skills and like how to and organizational skills like ordering and whatnot. It was like really great for me because it pushed me out of like a comfort zone and
Well, okay. I mean, I'll push back. I was a waiter too, right? So
uh-huh, yeah, I
it
know.
takes about a week to learn how to do it. I mean, a decade saying, well,
Yeah.
it helped me build organizational skills. I think that's a cope. I think that's something you say as to
Hmm.
why you did. I mean, a pretty low rent job for a decade, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but
Right,
as far as well, it takes a decade of waitressing to learn how to bring food to a table and organize things, and like that's not true,
right.
right?
I agree because I switched from because I've always also been really creative and can draw and paint, and I switched from waitressing into doing graphic design and in my early 30s, and I just had wished if I could do it all over again, I would have started that
Right.
um,
Yeah, that makes more sense to me. Yeah.
yeah, way earlier. So I guess you could say I already had kind of like that spatial recognition skills already, It's just like I think the fact that it was just
Or
like
or
easy
an
money.
or an alternative explanation is after you began to age out of getting extra tips, you decided to switch careers, right? Because you're getting into your 30s, right?
Yeah, maybe, that's another way of putting it for sure. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that was definitely a subconscious choice.
Well, as
And
the tips will diminish, right? I mean, as you get into your 30s.
hmm
Because, I mean, I was in a cafe with my daughter the other day and we were chatting about stuff. And uh, one of the things that I've noticed is that if I'm goofy, my daughter used to really enjoy it, but now she's becoming a teenager. She gets mortified and embarrassed, right? You'll
yeah.
get to look forward to that in about 10 years. And so it's kind of funny because it's like, oh yeah, so when you wouldn't sleep at night, we had to stay up. But now, oh look how the power has shifted. All I have to do is do a little dance, and you want to die from embarrassment. And it's like, aha, how the tables have turned, my dear. Anyway, so this woman was chatting with her, and I asked her. It was important, sort of, for the story that we were exchanging. I asked her how old she was, and there was this long pause, and she said 30. With that kind of way, it's like, oh yeah, I shouldn't really be 30 and serving coffee, right? That's not really a That's not really a
Yeah.
good thing in life. That doesn't indicate a lot of progress or challenge, right? But without a doubt, like so, a woman who's in her early 20s who's a waitress is, you know, cool chick with a future. A woman who's in her early 30s who's a waitress is like, you missed the bus somewhere, right? You missed the boat somewhere. And
Hmm.
so, yeah, I mean, that probably was one of the reasons why it was easier to transition, so to speak.
Yeah, I think I gave myself a lot of excuses, like, um, to stick to it because I'm like, oh, I get to meet like some great people, and I was like doing a lot of painting, and I'm like, oh, I could sell paintings, on the side. just like, just such a like,
Teaches me organizational skills. Yeah, no,
yeah,
it
I'm
doesn't
like,
really.
I'm
Yeah.
so full of it.
And so, when
But
did you meet your husband?
I met him when I was 28. I actually, when I was 24, I got married to a chef, incidentally enough, and
Well, you know, all chefs are insane, right?
yes, they are. I know every
Not
friend
as
or
bad as
anyone
drummers, but definitely, you know, on the less stable continuum.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's like a whole other topic. Um, is yeah, my previous marriage and
Dysfunctional people who work in restaurants, volume 267,000. Anyway, sorry, go
oh gosh, yeah, and like you said, like the dysfunction is just so boring. I'm like, gosh, that was just so like there were so many red flags that popped up, that I was like, it took me 4 years to realize that, it wasn't a healthy relationship,
on.
and
I like Gordon Ramsay. Run! Yeah, no, I.
yeah, like, and we were together for 4 years, and we divorced, and then it was God, so we I got married when I was 25, and we were married for a year, and then we got divorced, and then I was 28 when I met my husband now, and we had dated for 2 years, almost 2 years, and he asked me to marry him, and we I did different, like it was like also a different approach with him, like I really kind of just I kind of set the standard of what the guy has to at least. I mean, if I'm going to like go out with anybody, they have to show that they're like listening, and it's kind of funny because it's you're kind of priming someone, or you're like I'm subconsciously looking for someone that's going to deal with my crap, I guess. And I look
Well,
back
that
on
hasn't
it.
worked out yet, but maybe I can be that
Yeah,
person in our hour and a half that we have together. All right.
right, right. But we met when I was 28, and he's 10 years older. He was 38, and then we got married when I was 31, and um, then I didn't really like. I wasn't like didn't have this like big drive to have kids because, well, there's the feminism brainwashing, but it was I was terrified of becoming my mom. And when I was 30, I started listening to a lot of Jordan Peterson, and he kind of actually helped me kind of reflect and realize that I didn't have to become my mom. And I actually got really excited about having um, a kid. And my husband was also kind of the same. Like, he was like, we'd always say, like, I'm not counting it out, but I guess we weren't ready for it. And in the
Well, yeah, you
beginning,
were 35, right? Or 34 when you had
um,
your daughter?
yeah,
And he
I
so
have
you're
an,
34, he's 44. I mean, if
uh-huh,
you're not ready by then, I don't know when you're going to be ready. You
yeah,
age out of
yeah,
that
I
too, right?
know. I'm like, okay, I'm ready, and I would love to have a kid, and he was for it too. And we both were like also agreed that if it didn't happen, that we would, deal with it. Like, I mean, there's no way to even like, um, to imagine those kind of emotions, how you would even deal with it. But we accepted that if it didn't happen, it doesn't happen. But if it does, that would be really wonderful. And I had no problem conceiving. It was about 2 months later after we decided we wanted to have a, a child, and had a great pregnancy, great birth, and then all this like all this other subconscious like mom anger comes out. And even though I did have like anger towards my mom, I was like more able to like laugh it off because my mom's pretty predictable now. And but now I see it how I'm treating my daughter, and even how I've treated my husband too. And we've gone to a therapist, and we're pretty active in reading, and even like we talk a lot about these things. And I've even heard you say like it's you don't want to like wear out your husband or your partner on talking about like your issues. And sometimes I feel like I do that. But and I check in with him to ask him like, hey, like I'm sorry if I'm talking too much about like my mom and all that stuff. And he just like he's okay with it. But I think that maybe he like at this point he's like kind of like, maybe we just need to get some help, and but we have gone to a therapist, and it's been very effective, because we do like to talk, and we will take responsibility for like the shit that we do too. But I will get really, I will feel the relief of like a great therapy session or coming to a good realization. And I don't kind of keep up on it, which I feel like I do because I need to, because it's something that keeps circling back. And ultimately, I don't want to get divorced, and I don't want to ruin my child. And
No, of course.
that's
Now,
why
obviously, I
I
won't
love you.
reveal your last name, but it's obviously seriously in the Hispanic category. Is that your culture? Is that your husband's culture, or did you just roll the dice and got that name?
That's my culture. But as we were being raised, my dad like, I mean, we liked Mexican food, but he never was like, we identify as being Mexican, we just knew we were, but we all relatively look like kind of like Wedo, like whitewashed Mexican, like everyone in our
What was
family
the
does.
acronym? WETO?
Yeah, Wedo or Weta, like is
What does that mean?
that means like kind of like whitewashed Mexican.
Like more Spanish or
Yeah, more Spanish.
more
Yeah, my
Spanish?
dad.
Okay.
Yeah, my dad is very much more um, Spanish than Mexican looking, and my grandmother, his mom, was very fair too, and it was my grandfather that was he looked more Mexican and Native American too. So it's mostly
Right. Okay.
actually more Native American than Spanish. It just
Okay, but it was not a big cultural influence, is that right?
no, no, yeah, and like um, yeah, it was never like we never really strongly identified with that culture.
And your
We were
husband?
my husband. He's half Irish and half Jewish, and um,
It's funny because, half Irish, half Jewish. It's like Ireland is a country, Judaism is, like it's not a country, but I know what you
yeah,
mean. Okay, got it.
Ashkenazi. Yeah,
Right, right. Okay, got it.
right. And yeah, he wasn't like really raised with the being like he wasn't a practicing Jew. Neither his parents are both kind of like, I guess, atheists, you would say.
Well, but you can be
They,
atheist and Jewish, right?
yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, they kind of like poo-poo God, or like any higher power,
No, I
or
get that, but are you raising? I'm sorry. Is Judaism a part of your family culture or practice?
no,
Okay, okay, got it, got it.
no.
And you're Christian?
I would say I'm more, God, I'm like Christian leaning, but I don't go to church, and I believe in Jesus. I think that like what he has shown us in his teachings just are invaluable and are very valuable. And but I don't go to church because I'm not. I just like it's not me to like be worshiping Jesus, and I don't really think that's what he wanted. I think he just wanted us to listen to what he was teaching. So,
No, but you would
but
worship the personification of the values. You wouldn't worship some
yeah,
guy who just lived 2,000 years ago, but you would hold him as an ideal to elevate the values in your own mind, I think.
yes, that's a great way of saying it, the personification of the values.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
the what would Jesus do is not I'm a slave to Jesus, but it's a way of
absolutely.
invoking the values in a real time way.
Hmm. Yeah.
Okay, anyway, sorry, that's theology, so we can perhaps talk about that another time. Okay, so you had an easy pregnancy and the birth. How was the sleep after the birth for you?
The sleep, the sleep was, uh, it was challenging for sure. I would say like the first time I yeah, saw a therapist is because of like the sleep, and my therapist would like enlighten me to like he's like your adrenals are shot because you just had a baby and you haven't been sleeping regularly, and so like you're acting kind of crazy, and um but she started sleeping through the night like around 8 months old, and
Now, was that on her own?
uh,
I mean, did you do the cry it out thing at all?
it was at 8 months that we decided to, yeah, do the cried out. We co-sleeped for those first 8 months, and it was,
Yeah, you got to
um,
sleep. I mean, you can't
yeah, you
parent,
gotta
you
sleep.
can't
I
drive.
know.
It's not safe. And we had to do the cry it out thing too. It's brutal, but I mean, you can't exist on very little sleep. It just doesn't work.
Right. And I really felt that after we did do it, it was kind of like a relief. Like I felt like my daughter was relieved too because she was sleeping, and yeah, it really like worked really well for us, and it was really really difficult. And then there's also like little transitions, as they get older, of she would like climb out of her crib, and she didn't nap really consistently during the day. She has a very active mind, so it was out to convince her or to try to like lead her into a nap. It was really challenging,
Oh yeah,
and
the really intelligent kids, when they're very little, don't have really much capacity to self-stimulate. Like they can't read books, they can't look up things on the internet, so they need their parents for stimulation. And if they're high
mhm,
stimulus kids, it's tough. It's tough.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's kind of like she is kind of like a little bit of the issue is I'm um, having difficulty adapting to like how much she needs that or how much she wants to be stimulated by either my husband or I. And I mean, mostly me. Like she wants to be around me all the time, and which I do love to be around her, but I need like a little bit of a break to kind of just get some of the household things together. I stay at home, and you're actually really responsible for like um, uh, having me choose to do that because I really do, and it really opened my eyes actually to see like how that it affects children when the parents aren't around as much. And so we made it a point that I would stay home and my husband would work, and um, it's worked really well for us.
Oh,
Just
it's
like
probably great for
past,
his career too, because he's not got the split focus as much.
oh yeah, he is like I mean, he always said like having a kid, you don't know what your potential is until you have those things until you have things to really provide for, and
Oh,
he
it's the ultimate economic growing up thing, right?
oh yeah, yeah, his income is like almost doubled since we like made that decision, and he's
Oh, yeah, that's typical. So,
yeah,
yeah, okay. So when did you first notice that you were getting into significant conflicts with your daughter?
gosh, when she I would notice it like when I am tired and it's kind of like she's got an awareness of what things what re like how to solicit reactions from me, and we also like we moved 6 months ago, and so that's been like a really I understand that's like a really big change in her worldview, like in her feeling of stability. And
I wouldn't put too much on the moving myself.
oh, okay,
I mean, I could be
okay,
wrong. I just, if she's with you, it's like I don't care where we are as long as we're together, right? Unless you had sort of big friendships in the neighborhood or whatever it was. But I don't know that moving. If you, we evolved as a nomadic species, right? I don't know that moving is
right,
hugely traumatic for kids.
okay, yeah, um, yeah. I think it was when we moved to a new house, it was like a different space, and she kept wanting to like sleep in our bed, and
Hmm.
it was like working with her to like come back to her bed, and she would sometimes it would um, we would get to a point where she's almost asleep, and then she'd wake up and like not want to go to sleep, and it's like really hard to like feel that like, oh, you're going to sleep, so I'm going to be able to go to bed too, and then it doesn't happen, and it's just like, oh gosh, like this is super frustrating, and then I will lose sleep on that end of it too. And then we would be like in the cycle of like we're not getting enough sleep, and she's also transitioned from like not taking a nap at all. So that's really challenging because she still does get kind of tired in the middle of the day, and it's moving the schedule around to where she's not in the car in the middle of the day because she'll fall asleep. And if she takes a nap, then she's up until like 11. And we're like, just, my husband and I are just like really, really tired at that point, and we're more able to snap, I guess, and um, yeah, so I think it's just this past couple months, the not having like the friends and like a kind of a consistent schedule, like really kind of affects me, and it affects her too. And um, I think she's really seeing it affect me because I don't have any friends here. I've managed to make some, but like not like really good connections like I had.
No, I mean, younger people don't really get it. Like it's hard after you leave school to make
Hmm.
friends, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I remember after high school, I went to go and work in Thunder Bay for a while, and I I was working there, and I'd go to nightclubs and meet people, and it's like, but yeah, it's just everyone's got their circle of friends. You're just some guy who's around. Like, it's tough to sort of break into existing
Yeah.
social circles. And what did you guys move for your husband's work? Is that
Well, he works at home and he's a freelancer, so he can like work wherever there's an internet connection, essentially. So, but where we were living, we'd always been renting and we were just like kind of waiting for the right time to buy a house. But then the houses just, we lived in probably one of the most desirable areas, like in the world. And, we're just renting and the housing market is just like it was very common for a house to be like $1 million, around us.
okay? So
And
yeah, I get it. So you moved to get a better
yeah, so
place
we
for the
moved
property.
to a state where we could buy a house, and also we thought the state was also going in a better direction
Right.
than
Can
the
you?
other
Sorry to
states.
interrupt. Can you tell me? I don't know if you can do this without startling your daughter if she's around, but what does your daughter's scream sound like?
It's like,
Is it more panicked and frustrated and angry than that? Because that sounds like a ship whistle or something.
yeah, like it's like
Is it more
really
like a
like a
ah, like that kind of stuff? Frustrated and angry, or more shrieky, or
no, it is like a no, it's like a scream to purposely like get your attention. Like it's like a and like smiling and like laughing and it'll just
so
be
not quite a scream. Is it like a call?
like a call, I guess, like, but it's really loud. It's really shrill and um it's over and over, and with
Well,
that
no, it stops if you give her attention, right? Is that right?
um it it will, and I
I mean,
found,
if you pick her up and put her on your hip, she's not screaming in your ear, right?
oh, she'll keep screaming. Yeah.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, that you can't because you actually get hearing damage from that. Like you have to put the kid down and say, no, 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 you cannot scream in my ear. It's going to hurt
Yeah.
me, right? And that's not
Yeah.
that you can't let that happen as a thing. That's like a kid running at you with a knife. Like even if
Yeah.
they're just playing, it's like no, no, can't scream in my ear. That's going to give me tinnitus, right? So, okay,
Yeah, and that's actually how we remedy it for most of the time is like we will stop her and be like, that screaming really hurts our ears. It's gonna damage my ears. My husband, he has to wear like earmuffs if he's gonna like deal with that situation
right.
because she'll just scream and he uses his ears for work, so he has to keep them intact um, and for me, like it's yeah, I have to give some distance because I'm like, oh, I'm like, since you're screaming, I don't want to get too close to you because it really hurts my ears. And
Right, right.
um,
Okay.
I've
Yeah.
even gone to the point where I'm just like, I'm like, you can always say excuse me, or you can come up to me and tap me gently and wait for me to make eye contact with you if you want my attention, just kind of breaking it down like what's a better way of getting my attention.
Right. And I'm so sorry.
And
I'm going to have to just ask you for shorter answers here because we're cooking
yeah,
well over an hour and I don't want to make sure we get to the heart of the issue. So,
okay,
my fault. But if you could, yeah, just keep it more. I don't want to keep interrupting you. So just,
sure, no worries.
um, how many, how many boyfriends did you have over the course of your life?
Oh man, boyfriends. I had like three boyfriends. Um, yeah, I had one in high school, and then I just dated until I met my first husband. And then after we had divorced, I dated a couple guys, and then I met my husband 2 years after. So like I guess like my husband would be like my third boyfriend.
And sexual partners?
Uh, 8.
Got it. Okay. Now, another thing that I just put it in your sort of bonnet to mull over is that there's this kind of modern Karen phenomenon of the angry, intense, middle-aged, often white women, and call the
Mm-hmm.
manager and all of that kind of stuff. One of the things to think about with regards to your Mother is that I don't know if you know this, but semen. I'm sorry to get so graphic, but it's kind of important maybe to understand your mother. That semen has antidepressant qualities. I mean, they've done studies with women whose partners use condoms and women whose partners don't use condoms, and the women whose partners don't use condoms are happier and less prone to depression and anxiety and so on. I
Mhm.
mean, it is just one of these. It's amazing stuff. Semen, what can I tell you? It creates life and has a lot of mood stabilizers and elevators in it as well. So I always, when I'm thinking about women who seem to be going kind of crazy, it's not the only place to look, obviously, and it may not even be the first place to look, but women who aren't having unprotected sex. I don't mean necessarily that they could get pregnant, but I mean in terms of like non-condom sex. Women who aren't having vaginal sex, often it's something to think about in terms of like, okay, maybe your parents had no sex life or a bad sex life, in which case instability and aggression on the part of the women. It has different effects for men, but on the part of the women, sometimes it can make them kind of crazy and aggressive. And you don't have to tell me, obviously, but if your sex life with your husband is good, that can have a lot to do with mood stabilization. If it's not good, but you can make it good, I think that can help a lot, at least according to the studies that I've read. So I just sort of leave that there as an awkward
Yeah.
topic that there's no nice way to talk about, but it's just something to. I sort of think about this with regards to my own mother, that she couldn't hold on to a guy past 40, and it certainly didn't help her stability in any way, shape, or form. And then after a while, like we're designed for intercourse, and it's a pair bonding
Mhm.
mechanism that lasts our life and all that. So without it, we tend to go a little nuts, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It's funny because I was actually kind of thinking about that, and I'm like, I wonder if that has anything to do with it, because um, uh, sometimes like I'm too tired to like um, to do it, but I want to, or I'm on my cycle or something, and I'll take care of my husband's needs. But then I kind of underestimate. I was like, maybe I'm underestimating that. Like I have
Oh yeah, you need it.
needs,
I'm sorry, I think your body
those
needs it,
needs
and your
too.
your moods need it, and yeah, I mean that's generally a good thing, and as a whole. But I understand, of course, it's tricky with kids, right? So okay, so I just wanted to mention that. All right, so I think we've cast the net wide enough. If you're willing to sort of hear a couple of theories. All right, so
Yeah.
you and your daughter are in what's called a battle of wills. Does this make any sense? Does this
Yes.
ring a bell? She
Yeah.
wants to do something. You don't want her to do that thing, and you are squaring off like two Roman gladiators, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Now, the only way to win a battle of wills is with overwhelming violence with a toddler. And I'm not kidding about that. And of course, that's not winning, but the only way to conquer is, overwhelming force, overwhelming use of force. I'm going to give you sort of really extreme examples from military history, right? So if you look at something like um, Japan, right, at the end of the Second World War, they firebombed it from end to end, and they dropped two nuclear bombs on the island, right? And then the Japanese surrendered, and it was all over, right? Whereas Afghanistan, they're in there for 20 years trying to do nation building, and they lose, right? So
Mhm.
the only way the victory is overwhelming force with a toddler. Now, obviously, as you know, that's not at all what I recommend. I consider that completely immoral. But I think because you are in the peaceful parenting abstraction, but your emotions are leading you somewhere else. You're ending up in this war of attrition. In other words, your daughter senses that you have values that oppose overwhelming force, so she spies an opening to get her way. As long as she's dogged
Mhm.
and persistent and is willing to escalate, she will get her way, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
So your
So
emotions are leading you to dominance, but your philosophy is leading you to accommodation and sweet reason and so on. I think that contradiction is at the root of your conflict with your daughter.
yeah,
Because you have the
that's
urge, sorry to interrupt, you have the urge for the overwhelm, like you have to bite back your anger and your rage because you have the urge for overwhelming force,
mhm.
which is why
Yeah.
that's why you're willing to threaten the bond and say, I don't want to be a mother. And like that's in a sense, that's kind of overwhelming force, but it's indirect and kind of passive aggressive. So you have your mother programmed into you. If your children are willful and disobedient and whatever you then you're overwhelming force, but you're like holding back these horses, and somebody who's wrapped up in a massive inner battle, she's just like, well, I'll just keep screeching and I'll get what I want sooner or later because mom's not using overwhelming force, and yet, um, she's also not, but she has that impulse, and so she's probably spying the way to get what she wants through that contradiction in your mind. And sorry, that was the last thing I want to say. I want to hear sort of what you think about this. Is maybe a good place to start, or we can try something else.
I definitely resonate with that battle of the wills and recognize that my emotions are bringing me to violence, but I have this moral standing that's saying like just so strongly no, like that's not the right thing to do. And but I don't quite understand, I guess, how she's getting her way if I'm holding it back because in the situation itself, like if she is wanting to climb, on something, and though I like will be physically blocking the area, if I get so angry, wait, I guess I don't know if I'm saying this right, but
Okay, so sorry, parenting 101, and I'm sorry to say that's kind of insulting because I'm sure you're a better parent than me in some ways, but parenting
right.
101 for kids, and it's true for just about anything in life, every behavior that persists is working. Every behavior for adults, for kids, every behavior that persists is working. So if you say your daughter tries these various things, so she screams and tries to climb up on things and it's unsafe and this, that, and the other, right?
Hmm.
And you say it keeps happening, right?
Right.
So if it keeps happening, it's because it's getting her something that she wants. It's giving her something that she wants.
Okay.
Right. I remember talking to a friend of mine. He's not really a friend anymore, unfortunately, but his daughter was very aggressive and so on, and she was about 3 or 4, and she had a big blow up, and she demanded to speak only to me, and I, so I agreed, and we went to a place where we could talk, and I said, this can't be making you happy. Why do you do it? And she said, because it works.
Wow.
Right. So kids are amoral power seekers. All they're trying to do is figure out how to get what they want. Now, if you're in a battle of wills with your daughter, she'll be damned if she'll lose.
Hmm.
She cannot lose. Because if you're trying to dominate her and she's got to become like you, she cannot surrender to you, otherwise she won't get a man like her dad. Because if you have to dominate her, and to be dominant means to get a great husband, then she has to be dominant as well. She has to fight
Mm.
you in order to get a great husband, because she has to be
Hmm.
dominant just like you in order to get a great husband, because that's who great husbands choose, is dominant women. Does it make sense?
Hmm. So how do I decide on like kind of like what to like let go of and be a little
So
bit
you're going
more
straight to solutions here, are you? And you've
right?
probably heard this a million times in these shows, right? Some blinding insight hits people like, okay, yeah, but what do I do about it? Right? And I'm like, no, 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 come on, come on, don't
But
rush straight
yeah,
to
no,
solutions. You're doing that to overcome the emotions, right? Because you had the
right.
same thing with your mom. When your mom would try and dominate you, excuse my French, but part of you would be like, fuck you.
Hmm. Oh
I'll
yeah,
be
that's what I
goddamned if
told
I
her
will. And
before
it
I
may have
moved
been more as a
out.
teenager, but the toddlerhood is the first teenage years, right? The terrible twos, as they call it, right? That's when the children individuate and can disagree with their parents, and don't like you. When your mother would try and dominate you, your father would try and dominate you, you would seethe, right?
Hmm.
And you would push back, and you would be angry and upset, and you would be like, "I'll be damned," especially when you got older, right? I'll be damned if I'll do what you tell me to.
Right.
So that's where she's at. Now, she's doing it probably a little bit earlier than you because you've got the peaceful parenting thing that's kind of at war with the dominance thing, right?
Hmm.
Now, so usually a sign that I'm off the wrong track or we're not connecting emotionally, because
Um,
is like the passive
I
aggressive, yeah, but, and that's fine if we are, but I just wanted to check in on that.
sorry, it's kind of like hitting me when I'm seeing like kind of like visuals of the
Yeah, yeah, go
past,
ahead, share.
of like when you said like I tell my mom fuck you, and that was kind of the last before I moved out. I told her fuck you, and then my mom actually did the same thing to her mom too before she moved out. And then I'm also thinking about like when
So
someone
we're
is
on the
telling
fourth
you,
generation of fuck you here, right?
oh gosh,
I think we've got a show title. But all right, so the fourth
yeah,
generation, it's the fourth
fourth
generation
generation,
fuck you, right? So she's
right?
just following in the family footsteps. Why are you so upset? She's doing what you did.
Yeah,
Okay, so you have to give up on the idea of dominating your daughter.
okay,
You have to. Because it's not going to work. Again, the only way you can dominate children is with overwhelming violence. Like I'm talking beating them with implements, like just destroying their personalities. And then you'll probably still get blowback and destruction later on, particularly
hmm,
mid-teens, but you're on a path that is in a sense the worst, which is half and half, right? You know, a friend of mine many, many years ago when I was in my mid-teens, we were discussing military history, and he was telling me, I'm sorry to be using all these military analogies, but there's commonalities, right? And he was
yeah,
saying, like, he said, you go to war or you don't. And if you go to war, you use every trick, every weapon, every possibility, every subterfuge, every spine. You go to war with a full-on will to win, and you just go 150%. Or you don't go to war, but you don't do toe in the water. You don't do a little bit here. You don't do nation building. Like, and it really struck me. It really struck me that that's kind of true, right? So with historically in parenting, total violence, total domination was how children were dealt with, and this is why society never progressed, and the children were practically insane. I mean, I did whole speeches on the childhood of Aborigines when I was in Australia, and so you have sorry you have within you the historical beast that we all have within us, which is to crush your child's individuation and bring them right into the myths and cultures of the tribe, whatever that happens to be. And in your tribe, it is that the parents dominate and the children obey and so on, right?
hmm,
But your daughter doesn't want to do that. Children fight pretty ferociously to oppose that kind of stuff. And because you won't use overwhelming force, you're stuck in this no man's land of pendulum back and forth, seesawing, feeling trapped, feeling helpless. You're helpless because your instincts are saying using